The night shift on the UEE's Defiant was unusually quiet. Captain Marcus Rivera sat in his command chair, scrolling through routine reports as the massive patrol vessel glided through the outer rim sectors. 3 weeks of uneventful patrol had settled the crew into a comfortable rhythm, perhaps too comfortable for Rivera's taste. The veteran captain with 15 years of experience preferred to trust his instincts. And tonight, something felt different in the recycled air of the bridge. "Status report, Lieutenant Walsh?" Rivera asked, breaking the silence. Emma Walsh looked up from her communications console, her fingers still dancing across the holographic interface. "All systems nominal, Captain. Trade route traffic is minimal. No pirate activity detected in sectors 7 through 12. "Boring as expected," muttered Commander Jake Torres from the tactical station, his eyes never leaving the threat assessment displays. Always the cautious one. Torres had a reputation for overthinking risks, but Rivera appreciated the balance his tactical officer brought to command decisions. "Boring is good, Commander," Rivera replied with a slight smile. "It means everyone gets to go home." The bridge crew continued their duties in comfortable silence. The Defiant's mission was straightforward: patrol the outer sectors, check trading routes, scan for pirate activity. After the brutality of the Hegemony Wars, these peacekeeping missions were a welcome change, even if they occasionally lacked excitement. Rivera was about to request a status update from engineering when Lieutenant Walsh suddenly straightened in her chair, her hand flying to her earpiece. "Captain, I'm detecting an unusual signal," she said, her voice tense with concentration. Rivera turned toward her station. "Pirates?" "No, sir." Walsh shook her head, fingers already working to isolate the transmission. "It's different. Not on any standard human frequency. The pattern is—" She paused, focusing intently. "It's mathematical, sir. Very precise. Repeating every 30 seconds. "Source?" Rivera moved to stand behind her chair. "Unknown, sir. Roughly 12 light-years beyond our patrol zone." Walsh looked up at him, eyes wide. "It's coming from unmapped space." "Put it through," Rivera ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life, emitting a sequence of tones and pulses that seemed to follow a distinct pattern. Rivera wasn't a mathematician, but even he could sense the deliberate structure. "Wake up our linguistics team," Rivera ordered, "and get me Admiral Ford." 30 minutes later, the bridge had transformed from quiet routine to focused intensity. Dr. Robert Kim and Lieutenant Alex Park from the Linguistics Division hunched over their workstations, analyzing the strange signal. Dr. Kim was the first to speak. "Captain, the sequence begins with prime numbers," he said, pointing to a visual representation on his screen. Then it shifts to geometric patterns, followed by what appear to be coordinates. Lieutenant Park nodded in agreement. "I've cross-referenced with our xenolinguistic database. This doesn't match any known communication protocol or convention, but the mathematical principles are universal." "And the end of the sequence?" Rivera asked. "That's the most interesting part," Dr. Kim replied. "After the coordinates, there's a conceptual signifier that approximately translates to help or please." Lieutenant Walsh looked up from her station. "Captain, I've been analyzing the signal characteristics. Based on power degradation, I believe it's coming from a small vessel, possibly damaged. It's broadcasting across multiple frequencies simultaneously, which would require significant energy." "A distress call," Rivera said quietly. "That would be my assessment, sir," Walsh agreed. "Location?" "I've triangulated the source," Walsh replied. "It's 8 hours away at Warp 10 in an unmapped star system." Commander Torres frowned. "Captain, this could be a trap. Pirates have been known to fake distress signals." Rivera considered this. "This feels different. Torres, too elaborate for pirates. The mathematical sequence is too perfect, too urgent." He turned to the communications officer. "Any response from Admiral Ford?" The holographic communication platform in the center of the bridge flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Lisa Ford. "Captain Rivera," she said, her expression revealing nothing. "I understand you've detected an unusual signal." "Yes, Admiral. We believe it's a distress call from an unknown vessel in unmapped space. I'm requesting permission to investigate." Admiral Ford's brow furrowed. "Your patrol mission doesn't include rescue operations outside hegemony space, Captain. With all due respect, Admiral, if there are lives at stake, even non-human lives, we can't simply ignore them." The Admiral was silent for a moment, weighing her options. "You understand the risks, Captain. This could be anything from a trap to a first contact situation." "I do, Admiral," Ford sighed. "Very well. I'm dispatching additional support. The cruiser Indomitable under Captain Sarah Mitchell, the stealth frigate Ghost Runner commanded by Commander David Lee, and the medical vessel Mercy's Hand with Dr. Helen Cross. They can rendezvous with you in 6 hours." "Thank you, Admiral." "Be careful, Marcus," Ford added, her formal tone briefly softening. "And keep me informed. Ford out." As the hologram disappeared, Rivera turned to his crew. "Prepare for a course change. Torres, battle stations. Walsh, continue monitoring that signal. Let's move." 6 hours later, the 3 support vessels arrived at the Defiant's position. With the full complement assembled, Rivera ordered the formation to jump to hyperspace. The bridge was silent as the stars elongated and then vanished, replaced by the eerie calm of hyperspace. "Signal status?" Rivera asked. "Still transmitting, Captain," Walsh replied. "No change in pattern or frequency." Rivera nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. This would be humanity's first unplanned contact with an alien civilization. The crew was preparing for history. 8 hours later, the formation exited hyperspace at the coordinates derived from the distress signal. What greeted them was not what anyone had expected. A large blue-white planet filled the main view screen, reminiscent of Earth, but wreathed in flames. 12 massive warships hung in orbit, methodically firing weapons directly at the planet's surface. Cities burned like beacons against the darkness of night, visible even from space. "My God," whispered Torres. "Tactical analysis," Rivera demanded, his voice tight. "Unknown vessel configuration," Torres reported, his hands flying over his console. "Heavy weaponry. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They appear to be systematically targeting population centers." "The distress signal?" Rivera turned to Walsh. She focused intently on her readings. "Getting stronger, sir. It's coming from a small vessel attempting to flee the planet. They're being pursued by at least 1 enemy ship." "Captain Mitchell, are you seeing this?" Rivera opened a channel to the Indomitable. "Affirmative, Captain Rivera," came Mitchell's steady reply. "Awaiting your orders." Rivera took a deep breath. "Commander Lee, take the Ghost Runner in stealth mode. Identify the pursuers and the vessel sending the distress signal. Captain Mitchell, ready your heavy weaponry. Defiant and Mercy's Hand will create a corridor for rescue operations." "Sir," Torres interjected, "I recommend we maintain observation position. This could still be a trap." Rivera looked at the burning planet on the screen. "These people are dying. Torres, we're going in." The Ghost Runner disappeared from view as its stealth systems engaged. Minutes later, Commander Lee's voice came through the comm system. "Target identified. Captain, small vessel, minimal weapons, heavily damaged. Pursuing vessel is of the same configuration as those bombarding the planet. Moving to intercept." Seconds later, a flash of light appeared in the distance as the Ghost Runner fired its phantom torpedoes. The pursuing warship exploded in a brilliant flash. "Pursuing vessel neutralized," Lee reported. But the victory was short-lived. 3 of the warships orbiting the planet suddenly broke formation, accelerating toward the human fleet with alarming speed. "Incoming hostiles!" Torres shouted. 3 vessels, heavy weaponry activated." Evasive maneuvers, Rivera ordered. Mitchell, defensive formation. The space around them erupted in energy blasts as the alien warships opened fire. The Indomitable took the brunt of the attack, its shields flaring bright blue under the assault. Shields down to 60%, Captain Mitchell reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. Returning fire. The Defiant shuddered as an energy beam struck its port side. Port shields compromised, Torres reported. Minor hull damage, sections 14 through 17. Lieutenant Walsh, Rivera called. Establish contact with that vessel, now. Walsh worked frantically at her console. Establishing bidirectional translation matrix. Connected, sir. The main screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with translucent white skin and large, dark eyes. Despite the alien features, the fear in those eyes was unmistakably recognizable. This is Captain Marcus Rivera of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress signal. The alien's voice came through the speakers, melodic, but trembling. I am Lyra of the Vani. Our world has fallen. We have 47 survivors, mostly children, fleeing in desperation. Her large eyes blinked rapidly. The Dominion is exterminating our kind. They believe the weak deserve no place in the galaxy. We're here to help, Rivera assured her. Head toward our position. We'll cover you. Another violent shudder ran through the Defiant as it took another hit. Status report, Rivera demanded. We're down to 2 functional ships. Captain, Torres replied grimly. The Ghost Runner and us. The Indomitable is taking heavy damage. Captain Mitchell's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of alarms. We're venting atmosphere. Main engines offline. We can't maneuver. Rivera studied the enemy formation. The 3 attacking ships were surprisingly coordinated, maintaining close proximity to each other as they pressed their attack. Torres, I need options, Rivera said. Sir, we can't withstand a prolonged engagement against 3 Dominion warships. Rivera watched the tactical display, noting how the enemy vessels maintained their tight formation. What if we swing around the planet? Use the gravity well to accelerate and counterattack? Torres considered for a moment. It's risky, but it might work. The maneuver could give us the speed to break through their formation. Relay the plan to the Ghost Runner, Rivera ordered, and tell Captain Mitchell to prepare whatever weapons she has left. The human vessels dove toward the planet's orbit, with the Dominion ships in close pursuit. As they reached the optimal point in their trajectory, Rivera gave the order. Now, full reverse all weapons. The 3 human ships executed a perfect slingshot maneuver, spinning to face their pursuers and firing everything they had. Torpedoes, energy beams, and kinetic rounds all converged on the lead Dominion vessel at point-blank range. The combined assault tore through its shields, reducing the warship to an expanding cloud of debris. But their victory was short-lived. Captain Mitchell's voice came through once more. Rivera, this is Mitchell. We're losing structural integrity. I'm taking the Indomitable into the 2nd Dominion vessel. Sarah, no, Rivera began, but it was too late. The damaged Indomitable used its auxiliary engines to ram directly into one of the remaining Dominion warships. The resulting explosion created a massive fireball that momentarily outshone the stars themselves. Captain, Walsh called out. The remaining Dominion vessels, all 8 of them, are changing formation. They're approaching our position. The situation was becoming desperate. The Defiant and Ghost Runner continued to fight, but they were vastly outgunned. The shields on both vessels were failing, and systems were beginning to overload under the constant bombardment. 3 more incoming, Torres reported, his voice tight. We're not going to make it. Then, something unexpected happened. Dozens of small Vani vessels rose from the planet's surface, forming a protective ring around the human ships. They were damaged, slow-moving, and almost completely unarmed. But they placed themselves directly in the line of fire. Lyra's voice came through the communication channel. We cannot fight as you do, but today, we stand with you. We choose freedom over submission. The Dominion warships hesitated, clearly confused by this development. Their advance slowed as they reassessed the situation. The lead Dominion vessel transmitted a message, the voice cold and mechanical through the translation matrix. Deathworlders, we acknowledge your reputation, but you are still outnumbered. Surrender now for a quick death. Rivera responded without hesitation. We never surrender to bullies. You kill innocents. We protect the vulnerable. There was a long pause. Then, remarkably, the majority of the Dominion vessels began to withdraw, seemingly unwilling to face opponents who were prepared to sacrifice everything. As the Dominion fleet retreated toward the horizon, leaving the burning planet behind, Rivera felt a moment of disbelief. The combined stand of humans and Vani had actually worked. Medical teams to all Vani vessels, Rivera ordered. Dr. Cross, coordinate rescue operations. The Mercy's hand moved into position, beginning to transfer medical personnel to the damaged Vani ships. Dr. Helen Cross herself boarded Lyra's vessel, quickly discovering something remarkable about the Vani physiology. Captain, she reported back, these people are biologically almost incapable of producing violence-inducing hormones. Their skeletal and muscular structures lack the necessary architecture for combat. What they did, standing against the Dominion, would be equivalent to humans jumping into a black hole. Later, as the immediate crisis subsided, Lyra explained more about Vani culture to Rivera. We eliminated violent conflict thousands of years ago. We resolve our differences through negotiation. We have never known true warfare. Her large eyes studied Rivera curiously. When we heard stories of the hegemony wars, how your people fought despite overwhelming odds, we thought you were demons. But now, we see you are protectors. The two species shared information. The Vani revealed that dozens of their worlds had already fallen to the Dominion, while the humans realized that most of the galaxy existed in a peace that left them vulnerable to aggressive species. 3 weeks after the battle, Captain Marcus Rivera commanded the UEE's Guardian, a heavy battleship that had replaced the Defiant, docked alongside Vani Station, a habitat cobbled together from the scattered remains of Vani vessels. The station had become a temporary home for the 47 original survivors and many more Vani who had escaped. Lyra, now elected as the interim leader of the Vani refugees, visited the Guardian's bridge, personally greeting each survivor. She and Rivera had become friends, building trust between their peoples. Torres had been promoted to second officer on the Guardian, preparing for their next patrol. Emma Walsh had become the chief communication specialist, her expertise with the Vani translation systems proving invaluable. Dr. Cross remained aboard the Mercy's Hand, providing medical support to the Vani community. A transmission from Earth arrived. Admiral Ford, along with congratulations on Rivera's promotion, requested his immediate return to Earth to report to the government. However, the transmission was unexpectedly interrupted by Elder Voss of the Galactic Council, who explained that humanity's actions had reverberated throughout the galaxy. 17 other civilizations have offered assistance since your victory. Elder Voss said, the Council proposes that humanity formally join us, taking on the role of protecting peaceful civilizations. In exchange, you would receive technological benefits, resources, and military alliances. Rivera considered the sacrifices of his friends, Mitchell, Lee, and all those who had died in the battle, and the moral compromises involved in becoming the galaxy's warriors. We did the right thing, he finally said. We protected the vulnerable and saved innocent lives. We accept this responsibility, but we pledge to uphold our principles, protect the innocent, punish wrongdoers, and never let greed override justice. Elder Voss accepted this commitment. As the Guardian, Ghost Runner, and Mercy's Hand prepared to depart Vani Station, heading toward new coordinates 6 hours away by warp, where another distress signal had been detected. Lyra watched from the observation deck of Vani Station. A tear glistened in her eye, but it was a tear of hope, not despair. Humanity had arrived just in time, and now the galaxy would never be the same. The Defiant had lived up to its name, and in doing so, had forged a new path for both humanity and the peaceful civilizations of the galaxy. Together, they would stand against the darkness, proving that strength meant nothing without compassion to guide it. As Captain Rivera gave the order to engage the warp drive, he knew with absolute certainty that they had made the right choice. In the vastness of space, they had found not just allies, but a purpose greater than themselves. The Deathworlders had become the guardians of the galaxy, and they would not fail in their duty. "Set course for the coordinates," Rivera said, settling into his command chair. "Someone else needs our help." The stars stretched into streaks of light as the Guardian leaped into hyperspace, carrying humanity's promise of protection to those who could not protect themselves.